Hello students and welcome to the study portal. The topic of today's video is the integumentary system. So in today's video we will cover the aspects of the integumentary system. In today's video we will discuss about the definition of integumentary system, that is we will understand that what is actually integumentary system. We will also cover the different associated organs of the integumentary system and the organs involved in the integumentary system such as hairs, nails and skin. We will talk about the structure, functions of the integumentary system, and we will also define the clinical significance associated with the integumentary system. So without delaying, let's start the video. First of all, let's understand what is actually integumentary system. So, integumentary system is the system including hair, scales, feathers, hooves and nails. Alright, it is the largest organ of the body. If we talk about the external organ, it is the largest external organ of the body, which forms as a physical barrier between the external environment and the internal environment. So, by this thing we can say that the integumentary system helps in protecting our body and maintaining our body physiology. Alright, so what does integumentary system consist of? The integumentary system includes epidermis, dermis, hypodermis, associated glands, hairs and nails. We will discuss about all of these in today's video. Hope it is clear to you that integumentary system has variety of additional functions. It may serve to maintain water balance, protect the deeper tissues, etc. Alright, it is the attachment site for sensory receptors to detect pain, sensation, pressure and temperature. Moving on. Now talking about the integumentary system in detail. It consists of the integument, which is the largest system of the body. It is approximately 16% of the average body weight. The average body weight accounts for 16% due to the integument or skin. Alright, it is 1.5 to 2 meters square in area. If talking about the surface area, it is broadly covering 1.5 to 2 meters square. Alright, it consists of two parts. Here you can see the cutaneous membrane and the accessory membranes. The cutaneous membrane consists of epidermis, superficial membrane, and the dermis underlying with blood supply. Superficial membrane is what you can see at the outer layer, of the skin. And the dermis, which is the underlying, which is lying beneath the epidermis, which is underlying with the blood supply, which also contains capillaries, veins, etc. Alright, then the next one is the accessory membrane. Accessory membrane includes hairs, nails and the exocrine glands, such as the sweat glands. Now talking about the structure of integumentary system, that how integumentary system is formed. Alright. So let's have a look at the structure of the integumentary system. The skin is one of the largest organ of the body. As I told you, if someone talks about the largest organ of the body, you will say the external largest organ of the body is the skin. It accounts for about 16% of the total body weight and covers 1.5 to 2 meters square of surface area. It consists of three layers majorly. The layers are, first one is the epidermis, then underneath is the dermis, and underneath the dermis is the hypodermis, which is also called as the subcutaneous layer. So epidermis is the outermost layer, providing the initial barrier to the external environment. Then it is separated by the dermis by the basement membrane, also called as basal lamina. Alright, the deepest layer is the hypodermis, which is also called as subcutaneous layer. It is made up of connective tissue proper and adipose tissue. The epidermis is made up of the epithelial tissues, and the dermis is made up of dense connective tissues proper and irregular both. Hope this is clear to you now. Moving on. Now, this is the structure of the integumentary system. Here you can see the outermost layer is the epidermis, which consists of the hair follicles. Next is the dermis, which is just underneath the epidermis. It is composed of connective tissues, proper and irregular. And the deepest layer is the hypodermis, alright, which is the deepest layer, alright. It is also called a subcutaneous layer. Moving on, talking about the epidermis. Epidermis is the strong superficial layer, alright, that serves as first line of protection against the outer environment. Why it serves as the first line of defense against the outer environment? Because it is the barrier through which the any pathogen or any destructive organism or any organism which will cause infection or harm to you will invade. So it is the first line of defense against the outer environment. Alright, it prevents invasion of pathogens and fends off chemical assaults. Alright, it also regulates the loss of water and solute. Alright, so it is the physical barrier which is mainly localized in the stratum cornea. We will tell all the layers in detail in the video later. Alright, it consists of protein-rich enriched cells and lipid-enriched intercellular domains. Alright, so let's have a look at the cells of epidermis. The cells of epidermis, the epidermis consists of following cells. First one are the keratinocytes, next are the melanocytes, third are the Langerhans cells, and fourth one are the Merkel's cell. Alright, moving on. Now talking about the keratinocytes, the cells which are present in the epidermis layer. So keratinocytes are predominant cells of epidermis, and these cells originate in the basal layer. Alright, it originates in the basal layer here in the epidermis, and they produce a chemical or protein called keratin. Alright, which is responsible for formation of epidermal water barrier by making and secreting lipids. It makes and secretes lipids. Alright, now keratin protein is very important for the skin, for the growth of skin, for the proper nourishment of the skin, and for proper hair growth also. Alright, so keratinocyte cells also regulate the calcium absorption by activation of cholesterol precursors by UVB light to form vitamin D. All of us are aware with the fact that the vitamin D is synthesized by the UVB light, the ultraviolet light. Alright, so keratinocyte cells helps in the absorption, regulation of calcium absorption by the activation of cholesterol precursors. Alright, so keratinocytes form the thin skin. It covers almost the body. There are 4 layers of keratinocytes. The cornified layer, then is the granular layer, then is the spincus layer, and the basal layer. These 4 layers are of the keratinocytes. At the site of thick skin covers palms of the hands and soles of the feet. It has 5 layers of keratinocytes. Alright, let's focus on the 5 layers also. We will focus in detail in the video in the later sections. Alright, so if talking about skin, skin is thickest and at the palms of the hands and soles of the feet, and it is the thinnest at the eyelids, the eyelashes area, the eyelids. It is the thinnest. Alright, so the thinnest layer consists of 4 layers of keratinocytes, and the thickest layer consists of 5 layers of the keratinocytes. Moving on, talking about the melanocytes. Now melanocytes are derived from neural crust cells. They are derived primarily from the neural crust, and they produce a pigment called melanin. Melanin is responsible for the pigmentation of the skin, or you can say the skin tone. The skin tone of any human being is dependent on the production of melanin. The melanin is a pigment which is produced by the melanocyte cells of the skin. Alright, these are found between the cells of stratum basal, and these produce melanin. Alright. Now it is produced during the conversion of tyrosine to dopa by enzyme tyrosinase. The enzyme tyrosinase is responsible for the conversion of tyrosine, which is an amino acid, to dopa. Alright, during this conversion, melanin pigment is produced. It then travels from cell to a cell by process that relies on the long process. Alright, the melanocytes will go to the neighboring epidermal cells, then they will travel from cell to cell, and the melanin pigment will be transported. The melanin granules from melanocytes are transferred by the long process to the cytoplasm of the basal keratinocytes. Then it will be transferred to the neighboring cells by the pigment donation process, which involves the phagocytosis of tips of melanocytes. Alright, here you can see that there is the synthesis of vitamin D from the sunlight. UVB precursor is converting. Melanin cells are producing the melanocytes. They are reacting with the oxygen and transferring from one cell to the other neighboring cell. Next cells are the Langerhans cells. Langerhans cells are also called as the dendritic cells. These are the skin's first line defenders. They play a role in the antigen presentation. Alright, so these cells, for viewing these cells, we will need a special stain to visualize them. They are primarily found in the stratum spinosum layer. Alright, these cells are of the mesenchymal origin, and they derive from CD34 positive stem cells of the bone marrow. They also contain some of the granules which are the Burbeck granules, the Tranis racket shaped cytoplasmic organelles. They exhibit both MHC1 and MHC2 molecules. Alright, here you can see the production and the regulation of the Langerhans cells. Moving on, next cells are the Merkel cells. Merkel cells are oval shaped cells. These are the oval shaped cells which are found in the epidermal, in the stratum basal layer of the epidermis, which is directly above the basement membrane. Alright, they serve as a sensory function or as a mechanoreceptor for light, touch, and they are also found in the fingertips, palms, soles, oral and genital mucosa. Alright, they are bound or they are adjoined with the keratinocyte by desmosomes, and they contain intermediate keratin filaments. Alright, now talking about the structure of the layers, we talked that there are 5 layers present in the thickest skin, and the 4 layers are present in the thin skin. So here you can see the 5 sublayers of the epidermis. The first one is the stratum basal, which is the deepest portion of the epidermis. We will move from the deepest to the superficial one. Then is the stratum spinosum. After stratum spinosum, there is stratum granulosum. Then next one is the stratum lucidum. These 4 layers are present in the thin skin, whereas the last one or the superficial one is present in the thick skin. These 5 will be present in the thick skin, where the skin will be thick, and the 4, excluding the 5th or the superficial one, will be present in the thin skin. So here are the 5 sublayers of the epidermis, which are the stratum basale, spinosum, granulosum, lucidum, and the corneum. Moving on. Now talking about the structure of epidermis in detail. The human epidermis is composed of stratified squamous epithelial cells which break down into 4 to 5 layers, as we studied that in the thick skin there will be present 5 sublayers, and in the thin skin 4 sublayers of the epidermis will be present. So talking about the deepest layer, which is the stratum basale. Stratum basale is also called as the stratum germinativum. It is the deepest layer of all the 5 layers of the epidermis, or the external covering. It consists of single layer of columnar or cuboidal basal cells. The cells are attached to each other and to the overlying stratum spinosum cells with the help of desmosomes and the hemidesmosomes. The nucleus of this layer of the cells is large, ovoid, and occupies most of the cell. The nucleus will occupy most of the cell. It will be large, oval. Alright. So some basal cells can act like stem cells with the ability to divide and produce new cells. These are sometimes called basal keratinocytes. Alright. The other cells serves to protect the epidermis, such as the glabrous skin, which is hairless, and hyperproliferative epidermis. Alright. Now talking about the stratum spinosum. Stratum spinosum is 8 to 10 cells layer consists of. It is a layer of epidermis which is found between the stratum granulosum and stratum basale. It is composed of polyhedral keratinocytes which are joined together by the desmosomes. These are sometimes also called spines because they extend outward and contact neighboring cells. Dendritic cells can be found in these layers. Alright. The spiny appearance is due to the shrinking of microfilaments between the desmosomes that occur when stained with H and E stain. Alright, so the keratinization begins in the stratum spinosum only. Although the actual keratinocytes begin in the stratum basale, but the process of keratinization begins in the stratum spinosum. It also contains Langerhans cells. Alright. Now talking about the next layer, which is stratum granulosum. It consists of 3 to 5 layers, cell layers, it has diamond shaped cells with ketohyaline granules and the lamellar granules. Alright. The keratohyaline granules contains keratin precursors that helps in the aggregation, cross-link, and in forming bundles. Alright. The lamellar granules in the stratum granulosum layers contains glycolipids, which helps in the secretion of glue type material or glue type fluid at the surface of the cells, which helps in keeping the cell stuck together. Moving on. Now talking about the stratum lucidum. The stratum lucidum layer consists of 2 to 3 cells layer. It is present in the thicker skin which is found in the palms and sole. It is a clear layer which consists of elidine, which is a transformation product of keratohyaline. Alright, it is readily visible by light microscopy only in areas of thick skin. Alright, it is named for its translucent appearance in the microscope. It appears as a translucent layer in the microscope. It is located between the stratum granulosum and stratum corneum layer. Alright, it consists of flattened keratinocytes. Alright, the keratin in the stratum lucidum layer are surrounded by an oily substance which is the result of exocytosis of lamellar bodies accumulated within the keratinocytes. Talking about the superficial layer, which is the stratum corneum. The stratum corneum consists of 20 to 30 cell layer. It is the superficial layer or the uppermost layer. It is made up of keratin and horny scales made up of dead keratinocytes. The human stratum corneum comprises several layers of flattened corneocytes. Here you can see that are divided into the two sublayers, stratum disjunctum and stratum compactum. Alright, the skin's protective acid mantle and lipid barrier sit on the top of stratum disjunctum. Alright, the stratum corneum is the dead tissue that performs protective and adaptive physiological functions including mechanical shear, impact resistance, water flux and hydration regulation. So that's all about the structure of epidermis. Hope you are able to understand the structure of epidermis, the different layers that are present in the epidermis. Moving on, now talking about the dermis layer of the skin. So dermis is a fibrous structure which is composed of collagen, elastic tissue and other extracellular components such as vasculature, nerve endings, hair follicles and glands. The dermis is connected to the epidermis at the level of basement membrane. They are separated, the dermis and epidermis are separated by the basement membrane and consist of two layers of connective tissue. The first one is the papillary layer and the second one is the reticular layer. Alright, so it is the underlying connective tissue layer which supports the epidermis. In the picture you can see here the structure of the dermis. Alright, it is composed of dense irregular connective tissue and areolar connective tissue such as a collagen with elastin arranged in diffusely bundled and woven pattern. Now the dermis has two sublayers. First one is the papillary layer and the second one is the reticular layer. The papillary layer is the superficial layer that forms finger-like projections. Here you can see the finger-like projections. Alright, so it consists of finger-like projections into the epidermis and it consists of highly vascularized loose connective tissue. Alright, it contains small capillaries, lymphatics and sensory neurons. Next one is the reticular layer which consists of dense irregular connective tissue. It contains large vessels, lymphatic vessels and nerve fibers. It is the deep layer of the dermis and consists of dense irregular connective tissue. These layers serves to give elasticity to the integument. These layers allow stretching and covering flexibility. The dermal layer provides a site for endings of blood vessels and nerves. Many kind of chromatophores are also stored in this layer as the basis of the integumental structure such as hair, feathers and glands. Now here you can see the conditions, the clinical condition associated with the dermis layer. You must have heard about the dermatitis. So it is the general term for the inflammation of the skin. What happens in dermatitis? The papillary layer undergoes inflammation, which it can be due to infection, radiation, mechanical irritation or any chemical. If a person is suffering from dermatitis, the person's skin will look swollen, red and it will include rashes, the skin will be dry, itchy, painful, redness and swelling. So these are all the symptoms of dermatitis. Next is the hypodermis. Hypodermis is also called the subcutaneous layer or the superficial fascia because it is the deepest layer. It is directly below the dermis and it serves to connect the skin to the underlying fascia of fiber tissues of bones and muscles. It invaginates into the dermis and is attached to the latter immediately above it by collagen and elastin fiber. It is generally composed of collagen and elastin fibers. Alright. It also consists of cells such as adipocytes, which are the fat cells, which are specialized in accumulating and storing fats. These cells are grouped together in lobules separated by the connective tissue. It consists of well-vascularized loose areolar connective tissue and adipose tissue. It serves as the platform for deposition of subcutaneous fat. Distribution pattern is also determined by the hormones present in this layer. Alright, the hypodermis acts as energy reservoir. The fats contained in the adipocytes can be put back into circulation via the venous route during intense effort or when there is a lack of energy providing substances. The hypodermis functions in participating passively in the thermoregulation because it consists of adipocytes which stores fat, and fat is a heat insulator. So thus hypodermis also acts as a thermoregulator. Moving on, the hypodermis consists of hair follicles. Now talking about the hair, anatomy of hair. Hair is derived from the epidermis but grows its root deep into the dermis layer. If you will understand the structure or anatomy of hair, you can see that hair consists of hair shaft and the hair follicle. Alright, hair follicle has an intricate structure which consists of hair bulb that actively undergoes division to extend the hair shaft vertically. Hair generally categorized into hormone dependent, thicker terminal hair in regions such as axilla, pubic hair, scalp, chest. It is because of hormone dependency, and androgen independent vellus hair that covers the rest of the area. Hair growth has multiple phases called anagen, which is called the growth phase, then is the catagen, which is the non-proliferative phase, and the telogen, which is also called as the resting phase. Alright, the growth or the hair growth cycle is dependent completely on hormones and nutrients. Alright, now here you can see in the picture the structure of hair. It is derived from the epidermis. Its structure divides into externally visible hair shaft at the upper end and hair follicle at the lower end. Alright, it consists of hair bulb which undergoes division continuously to grow the hair shaft. Alright, the hair also consists of erecta pili, which are involuntary smooth muscles and which causes hairs to stand up to produce goosebumps. Sometimes you see due to cold or any other reason we get goosebumps. This is because of erecta pili muscles which are present in the hair, which are the involuntary smooth muscles which causes hairs to stand up. Then in hair is the sebaceous gland which lubricates the hair by producing a fluid. Now here you can see the region of hair growth where the hair grows. Hair growth occurs in the lower part of the hair which is attached to the integument, and the upper part of the layer, which is also called the hair shaft, is not attached to the integument. Now talking about the hair shaft structure. Hair shaft structure is subdivided into three regions. First one is the medulla, which consists of core dead cells containing soft keratin and air to provide flexibility to the hair shaft. Next, the middle layer is the cortex layer. It consists of dead cells that contains hard keratin to provide stiffness to the hair shaft. Last one is the cuticle layer. It is the outermost. It overlaps dead keratinized cells from shiny surface. Now, what are the functions of the hairs? Hair protects us from the heat. Hair protects us, so it plays a role in protection. Then heat retention, to retain the heat, to give facial expression because we look beautiful. It serves as an aesthetical factor in the humans. Then it is a sensory receptor, chemical signal dispersal and visual identification. In nostril, ear canal or eyelashes, it is helpful in preventing entry of foreign material. And body hair helps in the sensory detection. Next are the nails. Nails are formed as layer of keratin and appear at the dorsal tip of the finger and toes. Alright. The growth of the nails begin at the nail matrix, which creates new cell and pushes out old cells. Alright. The visible portion of the nails, this one, is the nail plate covering the nail bed where it attaches to the finger. The function of the nails is protection of finger and toes when there is increased movement, and it also enhances the sensation. So the production of nails or the nail growth appears in deep epidermal fold near the bone called the nail roots. Now talking about the functions that are performed by the integumentary system completely. The hair shaft, the nails, the associated glands. Alright. So the first and the foremost function of the integument is the physical protection. It acts as a physical barrier between the outer external environment and the internal environment. So it helps in the protection of our body by denying or by preventing the entry of the pathogens or other foreign material. It serves as physical protection agent. So skin itself is a tightly knit network. Alright. So it prevents the entry of any pathogen inside the body, first of all. Next, it consists of dead keratin that can withstand wear and tear of outer environment. Next one is the hypodermis, which provides physical cushioning. In case of any mechanical trauma, it provides physical cushioning that prevents any injury or harm to the body. The nails protects the digits or the fingers and the toes by forming hard covering. Next is the function. Next function of the integumentary system is the sensation. Skin innervation is by various sensory nerve endings that discriminate, that differentiates between the pain, temperature, touch, vibration, cold, hot, etc. In the case of hairy skin, tactile stimuli are picked up by three types of hair follicles and their associated longitudinal and circumferential lanceolate endings. Alright, so it also helps in providing sensation. Next function of the integumentary system is the vitamin D synthesis. The vitamin D is synthesized by with the help of skin because during the exposure of sunlight, the ultraviolet radiation gets penetrated and converts the vitamin D into its active form, which is cholecalciferol. It is synthesized by the skin by the reaction of 7-dehydrocholesterol with UVB radiation. Next one is the immunity. Skin also plays a role in providing immunity because it acts as the first line of defense and acts as physical barrier which prevents the direct entry of pathogens. So cells are connected through junctions protein with reinforcement by the keratin filaments. The skin immune system is sometimes called as SALT, which is skin associated lymphoid tissue, which includes peripheral lymphoid organs such as spleen and lymph nodes which are present beneath the inside the body. Next function of the integumentary system is the healing of wound. It is a normal biological process in the human body. It is achieved through four precisely and highly programmed phases, which are number 1 hemostasis, number 2 inflammatory phase, number 3 the proliferative phase, and number 4 the final remodeling phase. So wound healing is also performed by the integumentary system. For the proper healing of the wound, it is important that all these four different phases must occur in proper sequence and time frame. So what is hemostasis? It occurs through tissue factor which are located in the subendothelial spaces of the skin. It triggers the coagulation cascade to form a fibrin clot. Then next one is the inflammatory phase. The immune cells such as neutrophils and monocytes will infiltrate the injury site to attack pathogens and clear out debris. Due to this, the swelling and pain occurs in the particular organ. This phase is called as the inflammatory phase. Next one is the proliferative phase, which involves the multiplication of resident cells such as keratinocytes and fibroblasts for the healing of the inflammation that has occurred due to the invasion of any pathogens. Through the matrix of immune cells, there is formation of collagen network by the fibroblast and myofibroblast, which helps in the formation of new extracellular matrix. Then there is the final remodeling phase, which consists of apoptosis, as the cells which are no longer needed are found dead, and excess structures which are not really important are broken down, and efforts are provided by the body to restore the original architecture. These are the stages of the normal wound healing. You can see in the pictures that the blood clot is formed. Next one is the inflammation. Due to the formation of blood clot, there is swelling and pain in the region. Then is the proliferative phase, in which the fibroblasts are proliferating, the normal resident cells are dividing continuously to provide growth to the cell. Then is the remodeling phase, where the epidermis and the dermis are healed. Next function of the integumentary system is the regulation of body temperature, which is also called as the hemostasis. In this, the internal body temperature is regulated with the external environment. Alright, the internal body temperature is regulated by hypothalamus, which is a part of brain. Alright, so hypothalamus keeps a check on our body to maintain the current temperature of the body, which is 37 degrees Celsius. If the temperature undergoes too low, the hypothalamus makes sure that the body generates heat and maintains it. Alright, so skin has largest surface area which is highly vascularized. So skin plays a role in conserving and releasing heat through the process of vasoconstriction and vasodilatation. When body temperature rises, the blood vessels present in the skin dilate to increase blood flow, and the dissipation of heat is maximized. Alright, due to the performance of this kind of process, the skin plays a role in the regulation of body temperature. So these were the functions that are performed by the integumentary system. Hope this video session will help you in understanding the integumentary system in detail. Keep learning, keep studying. Thank you.